Hello there everyone, and welcome back to another uniform video. So, I was gonna dress up, or I am gonna dress up in my Carolean uniform today because there has been a casting call for extras by Swedish television for reenactors or people who have the Carolean uniform. So I thought I'd go ahead and send in some pictures, show my contribution, see if they want me, and then as far as I know, I don't know anything about the project besides that they're going to do some TV stuff and they need Caroleans. So as I was going to dress up and take pictures of what I've got, send it in, I thought, why don't I go ahead and make a video out of it while I'm at it, getting some of those views in. And yes, so this is not the angle we're going to use because I want to have a wide angle so you can show all of me. So I'm going to cut to that in a second, but I thought it'd be more personal if I'm up close in your face to start off with. And we can see the base start. I'm not going to start off naked, of course. So we start off with, I'm not going to go too much into all the details about everything, but I will say some stuff about some of the things that I'm wearing. But we're not going to go into it too much. But we'll start with this, since it's a close-up, and it is my oversized white shirt, very typical of basically all of the sort of time period around there, 1700, but also 1600, and you know, so and so on. But this particular one is going to be for a Carolean around the Great Northern War, so early 1700. And I think that's enough for introduction, so let's switch over to the other camera view and take a look at the bigger picture. An extra little side bin here, which I remembered once I was finished recording, and that's why I'm in full dress now. Someone's definitely going to say something about the mustache. 1700s, obviously everyone thinks of the clean-shaved face, but as far as I know, as long as you had a well-groomed mustache, it was okay. Not full beard, but as long as you had a well-groomed mustache. So mine would have to be a little bit shorter. I'm growing it out right now, extra long, because it's Men's Health Month. The, what's it called? Movember, when we grow out your mustache for prostate cancer. So growing it out a little bit extra. And an interesting side note about mustaches and about the Swedish army is the so-called gunpowder mustache, which when you're gonna hear it, it sounds quite unbelievable because, yeah, well, let's go into it. So as sort of a show your manhood, or sort of a rite of passage, maybe after a battle or something extraordinary having been done, the soldier, as a mark of, you know, attaining this in the view of his peers, would get a gunpowder mustache. And what is a gunpowder mustache? Well, they would take a knife and they would cut across your upper lip. They would pour gunpowder on it, and then they would light it on fire. So you would get this scarring across your face. First time I heard it, I thought, that's absolutely ridiculous. Given the cleanliness standards that we kind of think of back then, that would have been horrendous if, oh, that's a successful soldier, let's just make an effective wound in his face. And it did eventually go away. I'm not entirely sure if it was because people were dying, but it did. I've heard some say that the way they made gunpowder actually made it sort of almost antibiotic or like anti-infectious, and they would possibly have poured it into wounds. I'm not too sure about that, but there is actual like evidence, and there is paintings of different like higher ups, like marshals and stuff, or generals I should say, that does have this gunpowder mustache scar across their upper lip as a mark of being a man's man. I wonder if Andrew Tate is going to do that, the gunpowder mustache, as a way of showing that he's a man's man. But anyways, yeah, an interesting anecdote, and so back to the video. And there we are for the full-size picture of me. Hopefully you can see me well and you can hear me well. I'm doing this on my camera phone, and I'm doing the front camera so I can actually get the kind of wide angle that I need, so I can't see myself. But hopefully this should look fine, and you can now see the second part of this showcase, which is my pants. Knee height, full front pants. The reason why they call for, well, trousers, I guess. English isn't my first language. Plus, historically, they might have been referred to something else in English. But yeah, you know what it's the part that covers your legs and your lower body. Reason why they're called full front is because instead of a zipper you have a full front. Right now the shirt is covering the indecency, so just to show you there. I'm not going to show you the rear end. Well, I will actually show you the rear end just to do a complete view of this, and we'll see the typical sort of 1700s diaper butt. It's also quite crowded in the front as well. So quick spin, hope you save that. Now we're going on to covering the lower parts of my legs and feet, and we're going to do that with these wool socks. You can see they're quite long compared to modern socks, and they're quite thick as well. Obviously they have to be quite thick as they're going to cover this lower part and, you know, extend the pants as it were. So I'm going to put them on real quick. And the thing here is we're going to cover it up onto the pant leg. And it looks like this. And we can see it from the side and from the back. Now we need to fasten it. Did I bring? Yes, I did bring them. I am slightly prepared. So we have these that make sure that we keep that the socks don't slide down while we're out, especially since we're a warrior of the time period and we don't want the socks slipping down mid-battle. So we're going to fasten those. Real quick, hopefully. Show you the process. Maybe I should. I mean, if I had the time here, actually it is only one hole. If I had the time here, I could have switched the camera over to have a close-up view of me doing this, but I don't feel like we're doing that right now. And then we'll put the other one on the other leg. Riveting stuff. And there we go. When they're fastened, you can probably should pull these up a little bit more. You can also roll over the sock over it like that. I'm not going to do it in this case. So there's that. Those are fastened onto the shoes. I'm not going to wear these because these they're going to tear up my wooden floors, and I've already kind of accidentally done that in the past, so I don't want to do that. The interesting thing about the Carolean shoes, the shoes of the time, is there's no right shoe or there's no left shoe. They're interchangeable. They're just made with these square fronts, and it doesn't matter which foot they go on. Although, after wearing them a while, one is obviously going to be more of a right foot, and one's going to be more of a... Now I did it the wrong way around. This is the right foot, this is the left one. But there we have that. I'm going to put those to the side. What's next? The West. Yes. So we need to cover ourselves. It's cold back then. Pretty cold, especially when they were passing over to Norway. Quite a few of them froze to death. This one I've actually made myself. So there we go. Quite nice. I'm pretty happy with it since I did it myself. What I did kind of make a mistake on was the pattern I was using was a later 1700s pattern, and so it should really be longer. Like it should reach even further down, down here. But otherwise, it's pretty good. They did have these with full-length arms. However, it becomes way too stuffy in my coat, so we're not gonna, that's why I don't have arms on it. So it should really like almost be way further down here, but it still works. So we put that on. Nothing more interesting about this, even more riveting content here. Me buttoning, it's a little bit tight. Have I been eating a bit more? I've actually lost weight. I shrunk. It was a while since I made it. There we go. It's almost the same color. It's a little bit brighter, this one. And there we go. We're good on our way. One mistake that I made on this, you can kind of see here in the back where it sort of don't go flush with the back of my neck. And yes, one thing that should be said, which I know I've got comments about with my other uniforms, is the difference, of course, at the time period. These would have been made for the specific soldier. I know people have commented on the later uniforms I have, sort of the World War Ones. The World War I uniform I have, that it's a little bit it looks baggy on me. And that's because, of course, the difference in process of making the uniform. This one would have been handmade for the soldier that was going to wear it. Like it was a seamstress that made it to the measurement of the soldier in question, while the World War I would have made mass-produced in a factory for a standardized size. And that's why you get the sort of your more tailored look for these styles of uniforms, while you get more of a baggy look for the later uniforms. So a little bit, I've got comments about that. Next up, I think before we get the coat on and I start sweating like a pig in here, why don't we show the hats? So I've got two hats for the Carolean. Let's start with the tricorn one. So specific for the Carolean one is very distinctive that it got this button, same button that I got here, onto the left side of the hat, and then you can also see the tip of the hat, or the top of the hat. It's flat. It doesn't have this rounded shape. So very specific. So it's one way you can kind of tell that it is a Carolean hat. And that's how it looks on me. Then I've also got this, which is, you might think it's a winter hat, but it's actually the hat that preceded the tricorn. The interesting thing about this is they're not exactly, this is a carpus, not entirely sure how it's called in English, but they're not entirely sure what it looked like. So this is kind of an approximation of what one would have looked like, even though it would have been worn by the entire army preceding the tricorn. Sometimes I've seen some referring to it in comments when I've been showing off the uniform, calling it the winter hat, which I'm sure I definitely would like to wear this in winter time more than this, because this of course doesn't cover my ears, and you can imagine the wind going past, not very nice, while this one you can actually pull down the sides. But yeah, it's a little bit of a mystery of how these would have exactly looked like. But this is a pretty good representation of what it probably could have looked like. But we're not going to go too much into that. So that was the hats that I've got. Let's look at the sword. So this is the model of sword that the Carolean soldier would have carried at the start of the Northern War. As it progressed, they would have gone more for bayonet because it was cheaper than to refit all the troops with this sword. It's a full-length sword, so it's not like the saber briquet that you get later, the saber briquet wasn't of course as much of an offensive weapon as it was more like cutting up defenses as they were going forward, and having that as a sort of more of a tool. Well, I mean, a weapon is a tool, but in a sense that it wasn't directly meant to be cutting up people, although you could definitely use it in that. This one was made or issued specifically for cutting up the enemy. This is a replica sword. I don't know if there's much to say about it more than that, but yeah, they would have had swords and bayonets, I should say. There we go, the sword. And now you've been looking at it the entire video. You've been wondering when he's going to pick up the musket. Now's the time. Right. This is not a period active musket, although it is a flintlock. It is a flintlock about 100 years later. So this would have been closer to the Napoleonic Wars than the Great Northern War. But it's a lot better than the musket I previously had, which was a percussion capped musket, or it was a musket. Sweden has a habit of repurposing old military material, and we don't really phase it out. We only really phase out military material when it breaks, and that is continuously. You'll see that a lot with the helmets of when we reintroduced helmets during the 1900s, that you would still wear like the sort of type of helmet you would have sort of pre-World War II, long past that, into the 60s and 70s. So there was a lot of repurposing of weapons, and my percussion cap musket is an older musket, but it was repurposed, and not repurposed, it was remade. So they changed out the lock on that. But here I've been able to acquire an actual flintlock musket. This is, as far as I can tell, a model 1826. It's kind of hard though, because it's been restored So it's been sandblasted, what I've been told, and so the markings on it are not as clear as they used to be. But it's very nice, clean steel, and yeah, I do like it, and it is functional. So I'll show you here just how it works. Let's see if you can see this. There we go. Very simple design. You have a flint striking on here, creating sparks, going down into the pan, igniting the thing, and hopefully a bullet comes out that end. Pretty nice. There's that. We'll put that one back there, hopefully. Make sure it's sturdy, don't fall over and put any more holes into my floor, as I've been coming up with swords and shoes and whatnot. And with that, let's go ahead and complete the look by putting on the coat. And here's the coat. As you can see, it's by Taylor and Arms. If you're wondering where I've got most of this stuff, obviously I made this myself, but most of the other stuff is from Taylor and Arms. Interesting thing to point out about the coat is this like sort of a fashion side of it. Let's go ahead and pull this off. So it got pockets, however you cannot close the pockets, as we can see right here. So these are false button holes. Yes, button holes. So these are false button holes that you can't actually put the button through there, and even if you could, the button is actually quite a bit lower than the actual thing. So the pocket is open like that, and that is pure fashion. It's obviously not that great if you can't close down your pocket. It is a pretty deep pocket, so hopefully your trinkets won't fall out. Let's go ahead and put this on. And once again, some riveting viewing of me just dressing. But I guess there's an audience, maybe there's an audience for that as well, similar to how there is an audience for people just eating on YouTube, mukbang. I guess there's one for people just dressing. You know what I should do first? Let's see if I... supposed to have they don't have neck stocks, they have like a neck scarf, more like, or I seem to have misplaced it. I'm supposed to have that as well. I guess we'll go without it this time around. So let's go ahead and... It's very fitted to me, so you get a very close fit. Let's go ahead and button all these buttons, get the proper look. I should stand a little further back. The problem here with not being able to see myself is that I can't see what you guys are seeing. So hopefully I've not been standing too close and like my face being cut off like here. That could definitely have been a thing. I'm gonna have to redo everything just because my face was cut off. Hopefully though, it wasn't, or it wasn't too bad. I'm not going to redo this if half my head is gone. We'll tidy up the sides like that. There we go. And how about a quick spin to get the full visual of it. There we go. Now on to the cartridge box. This is an old one that I have. It's I got it second hand. It doesn't have, it's supposed to have a wooden block where you can put the paper cartridges in, and got a little pouch there as well. And also it's supposed to be, the leather strap here is supposed to be more, have the color similar to this, sort of a neutral, natural skin type to it rather than this white one. We're going to close up that. And we're going to open up this. We only got one on the side, we only got one epaulette on the side where you actually fasten the strap. So it goes over like that. And let's go ahead. The strap is a little bit too big. Just kind of fits over the button. There we go. Went pretty smooth actually. We'll have it something like that so I can reach back, start getting my cartridges, and then we need the sword belt, which you saw a little bit earlier. This is, it's got a special mechanic piece here for the belt buckle. You can kind of see how it's got two hooks. Hopefully you can see that. Oh, it's going to autofocus as well. That's going to be a problem, which I can't see if it's out of focus. I'll show you pictures if it's out of focus. There. So we've got two hooks, which hooks into here. And the idea behind this is when I've got this around my waist, actually now I did it the wrong side, didn't I? And now I'm looking down when I'm speaking. The idea behind it is it's a quick release mechanism, so you can just, like that, and you quickly get the belt off if needed. Makes it easier. If you're in a pickle and the belt is weighing you down, you need to quickly get rid of it. Then you can quickly hit that release mechanism, get the belt off. Makes it a lot easier to fight. I'm going to put that like this. Fasten it like that. Once again, riveting content. And me fiddling with my attire. Right, there we got that fitted. Pretty good. And we'll put the sword in. Fit that in like that. Pull this a little bit forward. Get it easier to actually pull it out. I'm supposed to have a bayonet there. I don't have one right now, but there is room for it. And with that, we'll put the top end on it, and there we have it. The soldier is ready. And with that, it's high time for me to take those pictures, and hopefully I might in the future have some bits of me actually being seen in the background on some sort of TV production. But that's for the future. So as always, hopefully you guys enjoy this, and hopefully I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye.